Good morning and welcome to Today in the News on Vanguard Live. My name is Ololade Adeomi. Let's get started. Look into the Vanguard newspaper as a major headline. It says federal government battles IMF over report on inflation, poverty, worries that such statement can turn the people against government, notes body advisory messages often in conflict with its lending stance. You can find this story on page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper. 2027 ADCI will collapse in 6 months, says presidency. Mass defection hits PDP, other political parties in Borno. 97 lawyers to defend ADC. Mark Aregbesola. You can find this story on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. On the bottom right corner, it says US tightens visa rules for Nigerians, limits validity to 3 months, single entry. You can find this story on page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper. In the middle, it says FCT administration, Ireti, King Bigbe, Wike locked in verbal war. You can find this story on page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper. And lastly, on the bottom right corner, it says federal government pegs admission age at 16 as VCs set UTME cutoff mark at 150. You can find this story on page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper. Away from the Vanguard, straight into the Punch newspaper. The Punch has its major headline saying Mark cautions Atiku will be as federal government slams coalition chiefs. Top right corner says 2025 admissions, JAM set 150 benchmark bars on the 16th. Away from the Punch into the Nation newspaper. The Nation newspaper has its major headline saying opposition's early 2027 moves won't distract Tinubu, says Idris. Top banner says admission age pegged at 16, JAMB institution, fixed cutoff marks at 150, 100. Away from the Nation, straight into the Guardian newspaper. Guardian has its major headline saying varsities fume as federal government fixes 150 cutoff mark, 16 years admission age. That's all we have on the front page of our newspapers for today. Join us after the break for a quick analysis of some of our top stories. Welcome back. If you're just joining me, it's Today in the News on Vanguard Live. My name is Ololade Adeomi. Joining me in the studio today is Mr. Gbero Olajuigbe. He's the Executive Director of Emergency and Risk Alert. Good morning, Mr. Gbero Olajuigbe.
Good morning. It's a pleasure being with you.
Okay, so we're looking into our top story for today. Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, officially set the minimum admission age for tertiary institutions at 16. Alongside that, we have the new UTME cutoff mark, which was also set as 150 for universities, 100 for polytechnics and College of Education, and 140 for nursing. Deadlines to be established by different institutions as well. What do you make of the government's rationale that 16 is the right minimum age, as well as the 150 UTME cutoff marks?
Well, one way or the other, we must strive to respond to the three domains of education, three domains of learning: cognitive domain, affective domain, and of course, the domain of psychomotor. It's possible for a child to be that brilliant even at 14 or 13. Is equipped with whatever whatever is required to function well in university or tertiary institution environment. But then that is an exceptional child. We have a society that is declining in moral, in terms of situation where even 18 years, 20 years is behaving immaturely, We have seen demonstration of this. They might be equipped with appropriate functionalities in terms of cognitive brilliance. But then, in terms of having shock absorber for the type of society that we live in terms of preparing to engage in a very dangerous time that we are in, there's need for a bit of maturity. Initially, I was against this because I believe that even if a child is 14, it can be allowed in. But then there must be a parameter that will meet what is expected for our society. So I have no problem with the 16 years minimum, provided there is no exception. But let me clearly state too that although it is within our society, but the rich has advantage. They send their children to school outside at any age they want and everything. So they have advantage over the poor who have no such luxury of having alternative to what operates in our country. But then we must have a parameter for every situation so that we work towards that, responding to the demand of our own environment. Like I told us, we must take care of the three domains of education. A child might be brilliant, but emotionally is not prepared to handle a lot of things within that environment. And we are not speaking for an exceptional child here. We are speaking for an average Nigerian child. So I have no problem with that age limit. And more so in the context of our society today, where you have university children that are behaving like adults that are behaving like babies and so on and so forth. So we must respond to it. Let equally be understood that at even 18 now, you have parents following the children to the school because they are afraid of what could happen on the road. That is the fact of our society of today. And of course, that is no problem. But for the cutoff mark, it's still part of the declining that we are witnessing in our society. Look, I don't want to use our own time is too far from now because most of our own children too have graduated. So we can't adequately use it. But in the let me even use 10 years ago. At least 10 years ago, before you can have hope of getting admitted, maybe you will score at least 240. But now we are talking of 150, we are talking of 100 for colleges of education and maybe polytechnic. We are talking of that. It's abysmally poor. We need to do better than this. Also, I know the policies of what is going on. There's commerce, a bit of commerce in fixing the cutoff mark. You know, we have a lot of private school now, private university, private polytechnic, private, all those things. So if you leave the thing so high, they might not have, in some cases, sufficient people that will go into almost over 100 private universities today, except those whose parents are extremely rich. You can see that at least average Nigeria, let me not go far, average Nigerians who are not that fantastically rich now, some of us can still afford private university for our children. I think those private universities education too, but they never care. If you don't score this mark, they say that you are not coming in. And it's because it's government, they don't run at loss because it's government that will fund it eventually. And they are not there's no individual attachment from the administrators to that. But in case of private universities or private colleges of education, you have private attachment. It's like business. Even though they are contributing to educational development of Nigeria. So we must appreciate that. But then it shouldn't be as ridiculously low as 150. Maybe 180.
So do you think
maybe something like 150 for maybe something like 150 for polytechnics, school of nursing, and colleges of education. But let me quickly state one thing now. My advocacy over the year has been for the scrapping of JAM. It's no longer relevant. You don't have it anywhere. It's not relevant. If you want to go to a university elsewhere, you contact that university. I think that should be the practice now. The job that can be done is quality assurance, and that can be merged with the responsibility of National University Council, NUC, rather than keeping a parastatal called JAM that has become moribund, that is no longer relevant to global educational standard management or admission or matriculation responsibility. So the JAMB is becoming redundant, irrelevant, and it should be scrapped. And the function, if anyone at all, be merged with that of National University Council. So instead of keeping the parastatal wasting money for what is no longer necessary.
Okay, so do you think this policy would in any way be a disadvantage to children and people from under-resourced backgrounds?
We have children of today, they are not prepared. We beg them to. And we have shown them that education, you have never, except in the last few years, I've never had. Why growing up? Why come? Because at a point in my life, and that was a necessary part of my life, I was a teacher. Students were not saying, oh, education is a scam. Education, but today, it's like a motto of our youth. Education is a scam because they think they have found a very shorter way to wealth, shorter way to expression within the society. But then we need to rebuild the focus of our young people. And look, I don't blame them totally, because it's when you have a society that the so-called leaders are not type of people you have to learn from. They don't represent morality. They don't represent excellence in education. They don't represent learning. They don't represent character. Then you can't blame young people for behaving like that. They came into a dysfunctional society. But it's time for us to reorientate them, to begin to appreciate the whole essence of education. And when this is done, we will now begin to have commitment by the young people to education, to learning generally. And not only that, it is when they are committed, and then we now begin, there is competition among them. Can begin to say, okay, let us hype the game. But now that they are not even interested in going to school, if you put it at 300 entrance mark, this thing, they don't care. Most parents are begging their children to go to school today. That is the bare fact. So we have a dysfunctional society that we must handle before we can address the issue of our education. And education is light, as propagated nationally by Dr. Tai Sholari in his days, in his lifetime. Education is light. No society can grow without or develop without educated people who have knack for research, knack for intellect, and knack for development. Look, all of if you look at what is going on in our country, I just reflect. At times I wake up, I say, what is the future of this society? That the young people, we wake up and begin and become content creators. Where in other environment, most of their young people are in the laboratory, finding solution to scientific issues, finding solution to medical issues. But here, we have become entirely a gossip society. If you look at the whether Facebook, whether any of the social media, you will find out the activities of our young people, even adults, creating useless content, prognosing in other people's marital affairs and everything, rejoicing in them because they are getting free money and everything. You can't have a society that have that type of orientation. And you begin to talk education, a very serious education within the contents of that social dysfunction, within the context of prioritizing the minor while abandoning the major. They don't even care about society, about corruption, that humongous corruption that is going on. Their own is what is happening to Davido, what is happening. They abandon the leaders and the rulers to continue to deny them of the necessity of their future. So we are not a very active society when it comes to focusing on development. And that is why we have the type of government, the type of rulers that we have today. So if we're able to rebuild our society and now refocus the young people in this society, of course, they have the population to ensure they force the government, any government for that matter, to pursue the development agenda rather than shenanigans of politicking, even with their own life and their own future.
Okay, so let's look at the institutions that will have to adjust their cutoff marks and adjust their education system. Do you think there are any challenges or loopholes that might emerge with this institution in trying to adjust their admission systems and the cutoff marks?
Well, the cutoff is not a cast in stone. What that cutoff by Gambi is saying is that you must not go below 150 for your admission, but you can go higher, a bit higher. Some might set 160, some might set 150. But then that leaves a loophole for corruption. Even though if the university, for instance, assuming that University of Lagos now put its cutoff mark at 180, some might come from back door with 150, 160, and they will be admitted, even though their own, because you are, it has become the market set by JAM. There's another market that creates a black market. A black market, because it's not guaranteed that when you score 150, you will secure admission. And if Unilag put its own as 180, that means that even though they corruptly, or the school corruptly admit people that score 160, they are still within the law. So it leaves room for corruption anyway. So if they say that the cutoff mark for law is 240, and somebody who is influential bring a child that has 160, even though they are on this, they will still admit him and nothing will happen because it's within the original cutoff of JAM, which is the examination management body that set the mark. So such person, even though exposed, cannot be legally challenged. And if that happens, it's not going to skate through the scale of justice. And let me quickly tell you too that even with that, it leaves rooms for the rich, for manipulation. They can go to school. We all know what is going on in the university. University used to be the beacon of morality, but that has been diminished. Now, even university vice chancellors are rigging elections. Some of them who participate in election and every other thing today. It wasn't like that before. But even the way they appoint them into the position today is because they are looking for somebody who will manipulate election for them in future. So he knows why he gets the job. If somebody could be manipulating election, which is one of the most important duty a country and citizen must perform, how much more would they do that for admission? So we have a lot of problems. Our society is so rotten that corruption has eaten deep into our fabric. So, and we can only, and that is why the eating eating away of the future of these young people is the cause of the social malaise, the conflict you see today, the violence we are witnessing today is the cause. Because there's nothing to motivate young ones to achievement. There's nothing. And they can see a lot of their, those ahead them who get out there to university without job. So nothing is motivating them or dragging them.
So we have
So
seen a massive reduction in the UTME cutoff mark over the years from 250 down to 200 and even now 150. So does this suggest anything about the government's approach to, tertiary admissions?
well, I think it's about education generally. We don't give priority to education. We don't care what happened to our children. We don't care about their future. I'm telling you, people are celebrating the life of Wike in Abuja for building road, but they don't see anything wrong in having children at home for over 4 like that. Are you going to eat more? Is the road that will govern Nigeria in the future, or those human beings that you build? And I've said it repeatedly that it is in those intangible aspect of good governance, like education, like health sectors, contributing to people's development grow. That is what grow nations, and not road. You can build road and people get that destroyed when they are frustrated. The degeneration of the cutoff mark, but we have a society that is degenerating fastly. A society that is becoming anathema of everything that could be wrong and get wrong in a failing state. That is what we have. And we need to work to rebuild this country. We are just joking. We are joking.
Okay, so away
So
from that,
almost everything must be fixed. Access to education is crucial. Provision of functional education is crucial to development. We are not facing anyone. This one we are talking now is an element of access to education.
away from that into our second story. So effective from July 8th, 2025, the US Department of State, has limited most non-immigrant, non-diplomatic visas for Nigerian citizens to a single entry 90 days, that's 3 months validity. They claim that this adjustment aligns with reciprocity standards and mirroring Nigeria's visa treatment of their US nationals as well. So, how valid is this US rationale? How valid is it to matching the way we treat them?
Well, why are they suddenly responding to what we have been treating, how we have been treating them? Why are they suddenly responding? There are underlying things that you might not be told. The presence of Nigeria in the BRICS meeting that is going on in Brazil is a miscalculation. I agree, but it didn't start now. The way we gave our visa to them before, well, maybe 6 months maximally, and of course, in most cases, one entry and at most two entry for visitors visa without necessarily extending for that. Look, it is not a new policy that they are responding to. We have been doing that. Why are they doing that now? Why suddenly is done? Immediately, the president of Nigeria show his face at BRICS meeting. So there are a lot of things that go into policy, particularly under President Trump, who can wake up and take a decision. But even though I won't let you go finally as a country, I won't block you from coming to UK. I will send a message, a very diplomatic message, and there is enough reason to advance for the reason for why America is doing what it's doing. But my concern from where I sit currently, if they are the reciprocity a very unpolluted diplomatic lens. I can see that the reason was because of Nigeria going to attend BRICS, even though they know they will anchor the reason on reciprocity. So I understand it. You will see that the policy will change, and this is one of the warning that Professor Akiyemi, the current chairman of this our international affair this thing in Victoria Island is the current chairman. He told President Tinubu that he should not do anything that will provoke Trump. He offered that advice, and I know. And most of these things, even from ECOWAS, I have been writing it in Vanguard too. How to manage our diplomatic relations and everything. We are non-aligned, remain non-aligned. You can't be aligning with my enemies, and we think there will be no shock as consequence. So there are a lot of things. Yes, they can say that it's because of reciprocity. Are they going to say otherwise? They are not going to say more than that. Are they going to say that because the president is attending BRICS meeting? But when you are in this world and when you are a leader, and that is why we advocate, and the Bible has told us to be as wise as serpents, but as gentle as dove. So the same thing goes for diplomacy.
How should the Nigerian government respond, diplomatically to this issue?
Look at this thing. When you are doing things, the best thing is to look at the cost and benefit analysis. Do we benefit from America more than they benefit from us? Those are the questions you should ask yourself. Whether in terms of cultural education, whether in terms of support, invisible support, whether in terms of their power. So there's power relation in every diplomatic this. You need to assess that. It's not about what can we do. Even if you do something now, they might not immediately respond. Why should we even be giving citizens from, let me, advanced country, very short visa, giving them short visa while visiting Nigeria in the first place? Don't we know that we benefit more when more people come for tourism and other things than they will benefit from us? At least immediately, the immediate output of managing relationship. We should have known that. It's just like a poor man saying that he will not welcome. If a rich man is coming to his house, he has to call in 24 hours to the time. If maybe Dangote is coming to your house now, he should give you 24 hours notice, even as the poorest person in Nigeria. It doesn't work like that. You have to look at the power and the relation you are going to create with people. The power is this. You have to think, if this man should come to my house, he might see something and change my life. Those are the reasons behind the logical man. And the same thing goes for your foreign policy when you are creatively formulating them and how to behave and respond to essential diplomacy within the country that you even know that is stronger, better, richer, and more prosperous than yours.
Okay, so that's all we can take for today, sir. Thank you very much for joining us in the studio today.
It's a pleasure being with you. Thank you.
Okay. That was Mr. Gbenrola JB, Executive Director, Emergency and Risk Alert. We call it a wrap on the show for today. Do well to like and comment and follow us on all our social media platforms as seen on our screen. And also check our website at www.vanguardnigeria.com. My name is Ololade Adeomi. Have a lovely day.